They told him interns were invisible, meant to run errands, grab coffee, and stay out of sight. And for Marcus, a young black intern in a towering corporate skyscraper, that invisibility was something he had felt his whole life. But one morning, as the elevator doors slid open, everything changed. A man walked into the lobby, older, well-dressed, but with a hesitation in his step. His eyes darted around nervously, lips pressed together as though searching for words he couldn't find. When the receptionist looked up and mumbled something under her breath, the man shook his head, clearly confused. A group of managers nearby whispered and chuckled, assuming the man was simply lost. Marcus noticed what no one else did, the subtle hand movements, the struggle to make sense of the bustling chaos around him. The man was deaf, and without hesitation, Marcus raised his hands and began to sign. The lobby froze. Phones paused mid-scroll. Coffee cups stopped halfway to lips. Nobody expected the quiet intern to suddenly communicate in fluent sign language. Marcus's hands moved with confidence, his face alive with empathy. The older man's eyes lit up instantly, relief, gratitude, and recognition washing over him. Little did Marcus know. The lost visitor he had just greeted was not a visitor at all. He was the CEO of the entire corporation. And in that one moment, when everyone else dismissed him, laughed, or looked away, Marcus did what nobody else dared. He made him feel seen. Marcus wasn't born into privilege. Raised by a single mother in a small apartment on the south side of the city, he had learned early that life didn't hand out favors. His mother worked 2 jobs, waitressing by day, cleaning offices by night, just to keep food on the table. Despite the struggles, she instilled in him 2 things: the value of education and the importance of kindness. Marcus, she used to say, you may not have much, but you can always give respect. In high school, Marcus found himself drawn to languages, not just Spanish and French, but the silent, powerful language of the hands, American Sign Language. His best friend's little sister was deaf, and while others ignored her, Marcus took the time to learn how to communicate with her. It wasn't easy, but every new sign opened up a world of connection. By the time he graduated, he was fluent. College wasn't smooth. Scholarships helped, but Marcus still worked nights at a local diner. Exhausted, sometimes hungry, he pressed on because he knew what was at stake. A chance to break free of the cycle his family had been trapped in for generations. Landing an internship at Wellington & Co., one of the largest corporate firms in the country, felt like a dream, but it quickly turned sour. Interns weren't treated like potential leaders. They were treated like servants. Fetch coffee, make copies, deliver packages. If you dared to speak up in meetings, managers rolled their eyes. If you stayed quiet, they called you lazy. And for Marcus, a young black man in a sea of wealthy, white executives, the pressure was heavier than most could imagine. He kept his head down, reminding himself this was temporary. But every day he felt the weight of invisibility pressing harder. Until the morning the CEO walked in. The moment Marcus began signing to the older man, the room shifted. Conversations fell silent. Executives who usually ignored him now stared, wide-eyed, as though they had just discovered a secret talent hidden in plain sight. The man, unknown to everyone else, smiled, his hands moving in response. Their conversation was fluid, natural, alive with meaning. To Marcus, it felt like nothing more than 2 humans connecting in a world that rarely cared for silence. To everyone else, it was shocking. When the exchange ended, the older man gave Marcus a firm pat on the shoulder before heading into the elevator. Moments later, whispers erupted. Since when does the intern know sign language? Why was he talking to that guy? Must be showing off, trying to look special. By noon, the office was buzzing. Marcus didn't know it yet, but the visitor he helped wasn't just any man. He was Arthur Wellington, founder and CEO of the company. That afternoon, a sudden email from upper management summoned Marcus to the 25th floor. Interns never went there. It was sacred ground, reserved for executives. Marcus's stomach tightened as he stepped into the glass-walled boardroom. Inside sat Arthur Wellington, this time accompanied by a group of top managers. He signed with Marcus again, slower now, deliberate. "Thank you," he expressed with his hands. "No one else here saw me." "You did." For the first time, Marcus realized who he was speaking to. His chest tightened. This wasn't just kindness. This was opportunity. But not everyone in that room was smiling. Behind folded arms and forced grins, some executives exchanged sharp glances. They had spent years climbing the corporate ladder, and now, out of nowhere, an intern had caught the CEO's personal attention. One manager, Mr. Calloway, sneered. Interesting skill for an intern. But let's not forget, he was hired to assist, not to play translator. His words dripped with disdain, the unspoken undertone clear. Stay in your place. The CEO ignored him, praising Marcus instead. Communication is leadership. Don't ever hide that, son. Those words spread through the office like wildfire. Suddenly, Marcus wasn't invisible anymore. He was a threat. The next days were brutal. Colleagues who once ignored him now made cutting remarks. Hey, sign boy, why don't you wave your hands for us? Others whispered behind his back, questioning why he, of all people, had impressed the CEO. His workload doubled overnight. Every mistake, no matter how small, was amplified. Reports he submitted mysteriously went missing. Tasks were reassigned without explanation. It was sabotage, thinly veiled but undeniable. And then came the worst blow. One morning, Marcus was called into HR. A file sat on the desk, one that claimed he had mishandled confidential documents, a serious accusation that could end his internship on the spot. He stared in disbelief. The documents weren't even his responsibility. Someone had set him up. The HR officer's voice was cold. We're reviewing this. Until then, you're suspended from floor duties. Please stay confined to intern offices. Marcus walked out, humiliated. He could see the smirks from certain managers as he passed by. They had won, for now. But deep inside, Marcus felt something he hadn't in a long time. Not fear, not defeat. Resolve, because he knew one thing the others didn't. The CEO had seen his worth. And no fabricated file, no whisper campaign, no sabotage could erase that moment of truth. Days dragged on with Marcus confined to menial intern tasks. The whispers grew louder, and the smirks more frequent. To many, he was already finished, a bold intern who had flown too close to the sun. But Arthur Wellington had not forgotten. At the end of the week, an unexpected calendar invite appeared in Marcus's inbox. Board presentation, mandatory attendance. His pulse quickened. Interns never got invites to board meetings. Was it a mistake? Or a cruel prank? When he arrived at the 30th floor conference room, his breath caught. The long mahogany table was surrounded by the company's most powerful executives. At the head sat Arthur Wellington himself, calm yet commanding. Mr. Marcus, the CEO signed, motioning for him to stand beside him. Today, I want everyone here to see what true leadership looks like. Gasps rippled through the room. Managers exchanged nervous glances. Calloway, the same man who had mocked Marcus days earlier, shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Arthur continued, half in sign language, half through a translator at his side. When I walked into this building, many of you, my leaders, ignored me. Some even laughed. You saw inconvenience, not a man. But this young intern, he saw me. He made me feel human. Silence fell heavy. Marcus's heart pounded. Then Arthur's eyes darkened. And yet, instead of celebrating initiative, some of you sought to destroy it. He lifted a folder, the same HR file that had been used to suspend Marcus. False accusations, missing reports, tampered assignments. Did you think I wouldn't find out? The room stiffened. Arthur's voice rose, firm and commanding. I built this company on integrity. Anyone who poisons it with lies has no place here. His gaze locked on Calloway, who shrank under the weight of it. Effective immediately, your resignation is expected. Calloway stammered, his face pale. Sir, it was a misunderstanding. Enough, Arthur cut him off. Leadership is about lifting others, not crushing them. All eyes turned to Marcus, who stood frozen, unsure if he should speak. Arthur placed a hand on his shoulder, steady and reassuring. You have something many here have lost, vision beyond yourself. That's the kind of leadership I want in this company. The declaration sent shockwaves through the boardroom. An intern, praised in front of the most powerful people in the firm. Executives who once dismissed Marcus now sat rigid, fearful of what came next. Arthur turned back to Marcus, smiling warmly. Starting today, you're not just an intern. You'll shadow me directly. Consider this your promotion. The words hit Marcus like thunder. Gasps echoed. Some jaws literally dropped. Calloway stormed out, his career in ruins. Others bowed their heads, silently chastened. But Marcus felt something deeper than triumph. For the first time in his life, he wasn't invisible. He was seen. And all it took was a simple act of kindness, an act that revealed not just the truth about him, but the truth about everyone else in that room. The boardroom scene spread across the company like wildfire. In just a matter of hours, word traveled from executive floors down to the mailroom. The CEO had not only defended an intern, but promoted him on the spot. Marcus returned to his desk that afternoon to find colleagues staring at him with a mix of awe, curiosity, and even fear. The same people who had mocked him days before now scrambled to congratulate him, their voices dripping with sudden politeness. But Marcus didn't gloat. He didn't need to, because the real victory wasn't the title, the recognition, or even the promotion. The real victory was simple. He had stayed true to himself. He hadn't fought fire with fire, hadn't stooped to their level. He had simply done what he always believed in, treating people with respect, no matter who they were. That evening, Arthur invited Marcus to his private office. The CEO signed slowly, deliberately, with a softness that surprised Marcus. "You remind me of myself long ago," Arthur signed. "I built this company not by chasing money, but by listening to people others ignored. Deafness doesn't make me less, it simply makes me different. But difference is what builds strength." Marcus felt his throat tighten. For the first time, someone powerful wasn't looking through him, but at him. Arthur continued, "You gave me something priceless. Marcus, dignity. In return, I will make sure you're never treated as invisible again." Over the following weeks, Marcus shadowed Arthur. He attended meetings he never dreamed of, met clients from across the globe, and even helped launch a new diversity and inclusion initiative focused on hiring employees with disabilities. His ability to sign became more than a hidden talent. It became a bridge that connected the company to communities it had long overlooked. Yet through all the success, Marcus remained grounded. He still greeted janitors with a smile, still thanked the cafeteria workers, still took time to check in on interns who felt as invisible as he once had, because he remembered the nights his mother worked double shifts, the mornings he went to class tired but determined, the afternoons he studied ASL just to help a little girl feel included. He knew where he came from, and he wasn't going to forget. Months later, during a major company-wide meeting, Arthur stood before thousands of employees and told the story. "On a day when I felt unseen in my own building," Arthur said. His words translated into both speech and sign. One young man stepped forward. He didn't do it for recognition. He didn't do it for gain. He did it because it was the right thing to do. He pointed to Marcus, seated in the front row. That is the kind of leadership this world needs. Leadership that sees, leadership that listens, leadership that respects. The room erupted in applause, and Marcus's eyes burned with tears he refused to let fall. From that day on, Marcus was no longer the intern. He was Marcus Carter, a rising leader whose story became a symbol of change within the company. But more importantly, his story spread beyond those walls. Across LinkedIn posts, news outlets, and community forums, people retold the moment when a young black intern spoke a language most ignored, and in doing so transformed his future. And every time Marcus was asked how it felt to have his life changed by one act, he gave the same answer. "It wasn't me who changed. It was the people around me. All I did was choose to see someone when no one else would." That day, the company learned a lesson that would never be forgotten. True power lies not in status, but in humanity. And for Marcus, the boy who once felt invisible, there was no greater victory than finally being seen. Not for the color of his skin, not for the title on his badge, but for the content of his heart.